So let's talk about the microteach because if you're listening to this episode, chances are that it's either coming up for you or it's already sitting in the back of your mind, quietly stressing you out. I've noticed something over the years. The microteach itself is rarely the real issue. What people are actually worried about is what the microteach represents. It feels like a moment where you're being judged, not just on the session, but on whether you belong in education at all. And that pressure can make even the most experienced professionals start doubting themselves. Welcome back to I'm No Ricky. If this is your first time listening, hello and welcome. My name is Ayo and I support experienced professionals, especially those from the beauty spa and wellness industry who are stepping into education, training and assessing roles. This podcast is about parts of the career change that you don't hear about or doesn't get spoken about enough. The nerves, the learning curves, and the moments where you realize you are more capable than you ever have given yourself credit for. So, if you're working towards your teaching qualification or you're seriously thinking about it, you're in the right place. I've worked with therapists, managers, trainers, and business owners who confidently train staff, explain treatments, and guide teams every single day. But when it comes to delivering a short teaching session that's being assessed, everything suddenly feels heavier. People start questioning their voice, their structure, and whether they're doing things the right way. So today I want to slow things down and remove some of that pressure. In this episode, I'm going to walk you through the microteach properly, what it actually is, how it works, depending on how you're studying, how to prepare without overcomplicating things, and how to deliver it confidently, and how to reflect on it in a way that shows real understanding. So, before we talk about preparation or delivery, it's important to reset what the microteach is actually designed to assess. The microteach is not a performance, it's not about impressing anyone, and it's definitely not about showing everything that you know. It's a short teaching session designed to demonstrate that you understand the basics of planning, delivery, and reflection as an educator. At level 3, the microteach is a 15-minute teaching session delivered to at least two learners. How this looks in practice depends on how you are completing your qualification. If you're completing your qualification online, your microteach will usually be delivered independently. You will teach your session, record it from start to finish without editing it, and submitting that recording along with your lesson plan, learning feedback, and other evidence. Completing your qualification on site in a classroom, your microteach is often delivered as part of your taught sessions. So, in this case, your tutor or assessor would usually observe you delivering the session in real time with your peers in the class. Both routes are valid. Both are assessed against the same criteria. The difference is simply how the evidence is captured. What assessors are really looking for, regardless of your delivery mode, is whether you understand your role as an educator. Can you plan a session with a clear purpose? Can you explain something clearly? Can you involve learners and manage your time? That's it, really. You're not expected to be perfect or academic. You're expected to be prepared and professional. So let's now talk about preparing for your microteach. Preparation is where confidence begins, and it's also where people tend to overthink things. The most common mistake I see is trying to teach too much. That is short, and it's short for a reason. The microteach works best when you choose a small, focused topic that you already know and understand. Rather than kind of teaching an entire facial treatment, you might focus on how to explain one consultation question properly. Rather than teaching massage, you might demonstrate and explain one specific movement and why it's used. Choosing something familiar, this is not the time to challenge yourself with new content. Once you've chosen your topic, think about your learning outcomes. Ask yourself what you want your learners to understand or be able to do by the end of the session. Your session should have a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. A short introduction to set the scene, one main teaching activity, and a simple way to check understanding. Your lesson plan doesn't need to be complicated or have complicated language. It simply needs to show that you have thought about your structure, your timing, and learner involvement. So now let's talk about delivery. This is the part that tends to cause the most nerves. But I want to kind of remind you of something that's important. You are not starting from scratch. If you have ever shown a colleague how to do something, or explaining a product to a client, or you guided a junior therapist through a correction, you have already been teaching. When you deliver your microteach, speak naturally. You do not need to memorize a script. Notes are absolutely fine and often help people feel calmer and more grounded. Focus on being clear rather than impressive. Explain things in everyday language. Avoid rushing. Pausing is allowed and often helps your delivery. Make sure you involve your learners, even briefly. Ask a question or invite a response. The interaction shows awareness of your audience and your role as an educator. And if something does not go exactly to plan, carry on. Your teaching is never perfect, and assessors expect to see real human delivery. Thank you to Developing Educators Academy for supporting this episode. If you're working towards your Level 3 award or your Level 4 certificate in education and training, or you're considering the Level 3 assessor's qualification, you'll know how reassuring it is to have clear guidance and assessment stages like the Microteach. Having templates, examples, and structured support can make a huge difference to confidence, especially when you're new to education. So if you're interested in those qualifications, visit www.developingeducatorsacademy.com/siptap. Let's go back to reflect on the microteach. Reflection is often where people are hardest on themselves, and it really does not need to be that way. Your reflection is not about listing everything you think went wrong. It's about showing awareness and professional thinking. Start by considering what worked well. That might be how you explain something clearly, how learners responded, or how you managed your time. Then think about one or two things you would improve next time. Not because the session failed, but because teaching is always developing. Finally, reflect on what the experience taught you about yourself. Many learners realize this stage that they were far more capable than they ever expected. That awareness also matters. If your microteach is coming up, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not there to prove yourself. You are there to demonstrate understanding. You're allowed to feel nervous. You're allowed to be learning, and you're allowed to be growing into this role. If this episode helped you, please subscribe, leave a review, or share it with someone else who's preparing for their microteach. That is how this podcast continues to support people stepping into education. And as always, remember this: you are no rookie in the game of life. It's time for you to take action.